And here's the main marketing thing that I sort of have spotted about this. Look at a germ of what's going on and then amplify it. You can't, as media, typically, there's exceptions, you can't create trends, but you can identify them and amplify them. And the other thing that has been tied into all of that is advertising. And my idea was always serve the audience, but not to the exclusion of the advertiser. Serve the advertiser, but not to the exclusion of the audience. You have to have that balance regardless of your media format, or you're just not authentic and you're not making money. The other thing that I've always believed in marketing is figure out what the audience already believes and champion that and make them feel like they're a part of something bigger, and you'll usually win.
Welcome to the Automotive Advantage. Grow your business and get smarter in just 1 hour.
All right, we got a big one today.
We do. This is episode 10, Automotive Advantage, and
It was so big we didn't even come up with something to put on the chalkboard. So that's going to be my goal. By the end of this, I want to figure out how to define this episode on the chalkboard. That's going to be what I'm working towards today.
we've got David Freiburger in our studio. David, thanks for coming in here. I have some notes. I have a bunch of questions. A lot of it's AI generated, so we're going to talk about that as a topic. But I thought with you, could you introduce yourself and however you want to be known right now as David Freiburger? What would you say about yourself right now?
Well, I think as it relates to the show, I've been in the automotive industry my entire career, whether it was working at a Dodge dealership and a machine shop or the performance aftermarket. What I'm known for is, of course, automotive magazines. Of note, I was the editor of Hot Rod for 12 years, and that morphed into me doing video, which turned into me being on a cable TV show for 13 years. And now I'm canceled, and I'm on my own in new media.
I love it. That's good.
It's about the best way to do it there.
We asked them to just roll right into this thing. Don't waste any time. So take us through the transition of where your career's taken you from a media standpoint. So the print years, the TV years, and then what's that breakup look like? And now we're going to spend a bunch of time talking about what you're doing right now.
Okay.
Walk us through that a little bit.
I feel like I've seen every phase of media that has come and gone. And that's sort of what's interesting about it is as a teenager, I was a magazine addict. I bought old ones, I memorized them, and that's ultimately how I ended up getting the job at Hot Rod as a staffer. But before that, I was really, I loved the automotive business. And I worked at Jacobs Electronics, if you remember that company. They're an aftermarket ignition company. And that's how I got to know magazine editors and got into magazines, where I spent almost 30 years at the same company, 20 of which was editing magazines. And so I saw the real curve when I started there. It was the end of the real heyday. I started in 1991, and 1989 was the best-selling year for automotive magazines at the time. So while you think of the golden era as being the 60s and 70s, and Hot Rod was huge, but it started to create its own competition by spinning off a bunch of other magazines under Peterson Publishing at the time. And then, as you know, they started combining publishing companies. And it was really interesting to watch the business of that. That's when I first really looked at the evilness of the corporate environment as what they ended up doing with all the magazines and how they ended up killing a whole lot of them. But then there was the natural market forces of magazines taking a slide. And at that time, of course, websites were the big thing. And so I was the sort of second generation of people who really launched hotrod.com back then. There was another team, including Doug Glad. Do you remember Doug? He was the editor of CarCraft for a while, who really spearheaded the creation of the sites. I was the editor where me and another guy, Sean Hagee, I crested 1 million uniques per month. But then we had to have video on the website. So I'm sort of taking you through this whole world of media. And when we needed video, the company came to me and said, we need video. And so Mike Finnegan and I just started filming whatever we were kind of doing. Then, and I think this is the real interesting part that happened at this moment, YouTube was cat videos, and everything on there was 3 minutes long, or it failed. YouTube wanted to compete with cable TV. And so they took 100 companies and they invested in them and said, make original content just for YouTube. Motor Trend was one of those companies. The following year, they knocked it down to 10, and Motor Trend was one of those companies. And it's partially because Finnegan and I took the videos that we were doing on the website. Angus McKenzie at the time was the editor-in-chief of Motor Trend, recognized it and said, you need to do this as one of our new YouTube shows. We became the #1 automotive show on YouTube. And Motor Trend also had some giant successes with the videos that they were doing under that brand. And so that turned into such a success that, and this is the part now where it gets more out of my eye line, meaning I was involved in most of the corporate meetings up to this point. I was not involved in what turned into the merger or the joint venture with Discovery. So the publishing company and Discovery got together, and that's when our shows ended up on cable TV, which ends up being another tier of media that I'm involved with. Mike and I did our Roadkill TV show on there for 13 years. I also did 9 or 10 years of Roadkill Garage and Engine Masters. And then most recently, Discovery and Warner Brothers got together as a business. And I don't need to go into the excruciating detail of what the business arrangement was between all of these companies, but suffice it to say, I became a Warner Brothers employee or Discovery employee rather than a publishing company employee. And it was very unusual to be an employee as talent on a TV show. Very unusual. It was also unusual that Motor Trend was acting as the production company making shows that would air on cable TV. That's not a business model that Discovery typically ran with. And so they ultimately shut us down, didn't share the reason for that with me. And now I'm in the next phase of my media world, which is I'm realizing that what you do now is you make a little money at a lot of places rather than a lot of money at one place. And those lot of places for me are YouTube, social media, which is actually paying me, although that's an interesting conversation. And I'm also doing an event and selling merchandise. Did I go too deep?
I want to go down every channel, but you jump in here.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. I guess my first question is, have you always just felt like David Freiburger throughout the whole thing, or has it been David Freiburger print, David Freiburger early YouTube, David Freiburger? Has it always just been like the pursuit of what you thought was cool and what the culture loved, or did it morph from time to time?
It was not at all about me, especially when I was working for all of the magazines. I felt a giant onus to the audience in all the magazines and also to the legacy of Hot Rod Magazine. It's the first magazine that really took off in the hot rodding space. It was founded by Robert E. Peterson in January of 1948. I love the legacy of it. And so when I was the editor of Hot Rod, it wasn't about, oh, it's the David Freiburger show at all. It was about Hot Rod and it was about serving the audience. And I think if there's any skill that I've had across all of these different platforms, it's that I'm really good at reading the audience and spotting trends and serving them the stuff that they want. And here's the main marketing thing that I sort of have spotted about this. Look at a germ of what's going on and then amplify it. You can't, as media, typically, there's exceptions, you can't create trends, but you can identify them and amplify them. And the other thing that has been tied into all of that is advertising, and my idea was always serve the audience, but not to the exclusion of the advertiser, serve the advertiser, but not to the exclusion of the audience. You have to have that balance regardless of your media format, or you're just not authentic, and you're not making money. The other thing that I've always believed in marketing is figure out what the audience already believes and champion that and make them feel like they're a part of something bigger, and you'll usually win.
That's a huge one. We can just cut the pod here. We're 8 minutes in. We can.
Give us an idea of revenue through the years for you. Like, which media was most successful for you? Were you making more money as the print guy, the TV guy, or are you onto something massive right now?
Media is not a get-rich-quick business. I made pennies up to the point where I, probably the last 5 years of making the TV show is when I really put the thumb screws on them and made some money. Prior to that, it was paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, and your personal brand is you blew it all on cars anyways.
Absolutely.
Is that accurate?
100%. Yeah, that was my own fault. Let me actually backspin just a little bit. You had asked, when did it become about David Freiburger? Probably when social media launched, it was definitely about my personal brand. On Roadkill, it was about Roadkill, and it was about me and Mike. But when you're on TV and have a pretty big audience, or you're even on YouTube and have a pretty big audience, it does come into the cult of personality. And I think that's how I'm succeeding now, is I was lucky enough to get the notoriety from the magazines, and far more so the YouTube and the TV show, that I've been able to grow a presence. And on YouTube, there's nothing particularly special about me. I'm not doing the wild and crazy stuff that a lot of these guys are doing, but people follow me because I'm that guy.
Yeah, I think there's a spin on personal brand that gets a little dangerous, where personal brand and being into yourself in a bad way kind of get morphed together sometimes.
100%. And I try desperately not to be that guy.
Yeah, we see it a lot where, shop owners, people we know in this industry, racers, they're like, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want people to think I think I'm special. I'm like, right. No, just being you doesn't mean you're into yourself. It just means you're authentic to you, right? So how would you balance that for someone at home that's like...
Well, I'm about to actually, ironically, give you an egomaniacal statement, which is one of the things I'm really able to do, I think, is be a media guy who can present things pretty well and who can figure out marketing-wise what people want to see and want to hear, but also maintain that thing where I'm just one of you. I might be more connected than you. I might have a background that, makes me know people that you wish you knew. But ultimately, I'm just a guy in a driveway lying on his back changing a throw-up bearing day before yesterday. And I think that is an important thing, is the authenticity. I think you can see that going on with Garrett Mitchell, Cletus McFarland. It's the same thing, is he's built this giant empire of events and YouTube and everything else. But I think everybody thinks, well, the guy has a couple of helicopters and a plane and a giant house with a bow tie pool and all this stuff, but he's still my guy because he's still the same guy. I think that's important.
Is he still their guy?
You don't think he is? I think he's still their guy. Look at his audience.
He's got a bow tie swimming pool.
He has a bow tie swimming pool. He has a bunch of choppers. And this is the annoying thing. Even with Mike Finnegan, who was my co-host on Roadkill forever, and I've always said he and I were equal co-hosts. It's not like I was the leader, he was the leader. We played different roles. I was more the narrator, but we were on equal footing. On YouTube, he can get away with building crazy Hemis, and he's got jet boats all over the place, and let me go get my Sonny Leonard motor. If I did that, I would get crucified. They'd be like, you're a sellout. But Finnegan's brand allows his audience to accept it. My audience doesn't accept that. I can do some absurd things that actually are pretty expensive, but they kind of give the illusion that they're not. I have an AMC Gremlin that has a 535 cubic inch Hemi in it. It's a $30,000 motor, but it's in a clapped out AMC Gremlin. And so people go, yeah. It's just a different spin.
I want to walk through the empire. You listed YouTube, social, events, and merch. What's making the most money right now?
YouTube.
What's the percentage?
50. And so even though that sounds like, well, it's 50-50, how is it making more? It's because the other elements include merch and events and social media.
It's your big driver, is what you're saying, for the other pillars of your empire.
YouTube is, yes, of course. And the other thing that it's good for is amplifying the t-shirt business and the events. And I haven't fully gestated that because as of like a week from now, I will have been on YouTube 1 year. So I'm not a powerhouse there, but I've done surprisingly well at gathering an audience. And I've got another good thing going on, which is my views to subscriber ratio is really good, meaning I typically get more views than I have subscribers, which is better than being upside down, having a whole bunch of subs and very low views.
Talk to me about merch for a second, because everyone starts in their brain sometimes with, I'm going to sell shirts. And then they're like, I'm going to sell 1 trillion shirts because I heard 1320 video sells 50 trillion shirts every hour. How hard is merch, like, to get into, to really sell? I know you've done well there, but for someone at home that's like, I want to start content creation so I can sell t-shirts, give me that, the reality there.
You need the audience first and you need the brand first. Or in our case, Mike and I both have cars that are the brand. Like, what am I wearing? Oh, I'm wearing the Thermal Quad shirt. This came out of a line I gave in a Roadkill episode. And I was like, Thermal Quad, the only carburetor that punishes you for wide open throttle. And for whatever reason, that took off. So I made the shirt and boom, catchphrases are big. And that's why you need YouTube and things in order to develop a personality to have catchphrases. Cars themselves can be big. You know, I talked about the Gremlin I have, the Hemi Gremmy. I've got 3 different Hemi Gremmy t-shirt designs, and people think the car is a freak show, so they buy the shirt. So if you're getting into it initially, the problem is establishing that brand. And when I say brand, it's a broad thing. My brand would be David Freiburger or DF. Those shirts that I've tried to do with just my logo on them do not sell. Now, Finnegan has a brand called Finnegan Speed and Marine, FSM. He does well with those shirts. Whatever reason, I guess his sounds like more like a business or something cool. Mine's just my name, which is sort of awkward and weird. And so my big t-shirt sales are catchphrases and cars. Here's the other thing about getting started, is that if somebody has a YouTube channel or a new business and they think that they're going to sell merchandise, usually what they want to do first is put their logo on stuff. And I just gave an example about how that may not work. The other thing is that debate of, do I have someone else sell my merchandise and fulfill it, or do I put it in stock? I don't think you should put it in stock until you are at the scale where you have no choice. We mentioned Cletus or Garrett. He now has a huge warehouse with picking machines and the whole deal just for merchandise. And he's fulfilling merchandise for other people. And they're selling products and such out of there as well. With me, I've never gone to that level, and I have never stocked and shipped my own merchandise. I have a partner with the person who actually manufactures these shirts. They make the t-shirts and print the designs and help me with marketing, and I only get 30%. They take the bulk of it, but it's mailbox money. I sell shirts, I pay no attention to it, and boom, direct deposit, the money just shows up. It's not the best method, but it might be the best method to start. The problem is, my company that I use will not take new clients. They're too big, they've got too many people. So if you're a small business just starting out, you need to find a company that'll do that, and your volume will be pretty low, which is the temptation to just stock the stuff and ship it.
Yeah, but shipping and receiving is for the birds, man.
It's a nightmare. And returns and phone calls and bounced credit cards and the 3% credit card fee. There's just a lot of nightmare behind moving merch.
Yeah, when we launched this little product, Mic Drop, you know, I never thought I would go to the UPS store that many times in my life, let alone every day, multiple times a day. So you think you're just shipping shirts, but you're not. You are now a Amazon warehouse on your own accord here. It's a pretty tough go.
Events is part of your empire. We're here at Roadkill.
If only it was an empire. It's sort of a fiefdom. I don't know.
Part of your thiefdom, then, is events. What are you doing in the event space? And I know you're here this weekend for good reasons, but run us through that.
You know what? One of the tragedies of my career is that I have built brands and events and things for the company I worked for forever rather than for myself. However, you can't have too much sour grapes about that, because the reason I was able to grow them was because I had, you know, the bullhorn of those media platforms, and therefore I was able to start Hot Rod Magazine's Drag Week. I was barely involved in Power Tour. People erroneously give me credit for Hot Rod Power Tour, and I just, for the record, did not do that. But then there was also what I'm here for in Pontiac, Michigan right now, which is Roadkill Nights. Another event where it's just unique, different. It struck a chord, and it's now gone on for 10 years. It was actually created by Tim Kuniskis, who was the president of Dodge at the time, and by Eric Schwab, who was Motor Trend. And we executed the very first one at the Pontiac Silverdome 10 years ago. The germ that I added was we came back the next year, and Tim Kuniskis was like, I need this to be bigger, badder, faster, louder, as he is prone to do. And I literally raised my hand and said to this room full of executives, here's the thing, you have to race on Woodward. And they were like, yes, make that happen immediately. And it did. And without the power of Dodge, we wouldn't have done that. So there's an idea I had that made the event unique. And it was executable because of Dodge and Motor Trend. I could have never done that myself. Now, that said, I have an event called Duct Tape Drags, which is a most unique gathering of variety of imports, domestics, trucks, late models, old cars. But the people who come have sort of a, well, I have a catchphrase, don't get it right, just get it running. There's a lot of people there who have really bad cars with a lot of really great aftermarket parts on them, and they show up and they race them. And it's, on the outside, it's a dirtball thing, but it's actually a community. And what I did there was reached people who didn't want to sit around and power park and be in a lawn chair next to their car, and who also don't want to go enter a hardcore drag race, and who also don't want to go to a cruise night. These are people who actually use their cars, and I always say it's great parts on bad cars is kind of what I promote. And it's a big deal. It's just another example of sort of noticing the hole in the market, knowing that I've got the voice for it, and having a reasonable success with it. It's not enormous. We have 400 cars in the race. We get about 100 in the show. We get about 3,500 through the gate.
Do you own that, though? That's your entity? Is that what that means?
Yes, it is mine, and I'm also partnered with Derek from Vice Grip Garage on it. It's a promotional partnership. Yeah.
I love the idea of don't get it right, just get it running. And it seems like fun car stuff, but it also seems like probably a theme in your life. There must be a lot of times where it's like, we're going to start a YouTube channel. You didn't sit down and like, I have to figure everything out. It was just like, all right, let's start it. Let's get going. Or, hey, we're going to do this on Woodward. Like, okay, let's figure that out, right? Mm-hmm. How much of that do you think is important to your success? And how much of that do you think people at home should be like, okay, I am sitting on an idea, man, I should just start it instead of just waiting for perfection all the time?
It's interesting because on the car side of things, I'm definitely behind that. And it all started when I was at Hot Rod Magazine. I realized a lot of guys had cars in their garage that they were waiting to be flawless, and being flawless was getting in the way of them ever touching it. So I get that from the automotive side, but I am a perfectionist when it comes to the stuff I do in business. And I definitely sit around wringing hands going, I don't want to launch this until it's perfect. I don't, this logo bothers me because the letter spacing's wrong, and I will hang myself up on starting an event or a new venture over stuff like that. And I know I shouldn't. So you're probably right in asking the question. I'd be better off just, what do they say, move fast and break things? I haven't broken enough stuff as far as the business models in my personal life.
Is your YouTube channel perfect?
No.
What are you going to do?
Far from it. Far, far from it. So I've been in it for a year. I'm still learning things about posting cadence and video length, and I have a lot of stuff I can spill about all of that. The thing that is imperfect about my channel, which I'm never going to change, is that what YouTube really wants, algorithm-wise, is for you to do the same video every single week. They want the same subject matter on the same set with the same guy saying similar words, but I'll give you an example. The only thing I watch on YouTube is occasionally, if I'm in a hotel room or something, I'll watch this woman who's the charismatic voice. And what she does is she analyzes singers of popular songs and tells you what they're doing and why it's amazing. I do not comprehend music at all. I cannot sing. I don't care about this. But sometimes she'll analyze like this 80s sunset, hair metal stuff that I listen to, and I'll realize, this guy's actually good. And I had no idea. And so it's fascinating to me. But to get back on track, every one of her thumbnails looks identical. And she looks identical, and she's doing the same thing every single week, just with a different song. And that's what YouTube wants. But what I'm doing is a pretty wide variety of stuff, because I came out of Hot Rod Magazine, where we could cover anything we wanted, from pro drag racing to dirt ball guys building cars in their backyard, to Baja, to Indy. We covered it all. And so that's where my interests are. And so I do 4x4s and cars and road trips and wrenching in the driveway, and then desperate measures type videos that I just need to get to stick to the screen, and they're just not very good at all. So that's my variety, and that's one of the things that's imperfect, but I don't want to change it, because what I want to do is what interests me.
It's funny how the algo ends up affecting, just like the newsstand used to affect some things, you know, but it's like,
Brutal.
yeah, the balance of my guilty YouTube pleasure is James Hoffman. He's a guy from London who's big into coffee. And I don't really like coffee that much, but I just love hearing him talk about different types of coffee, you know, and it's the same really nice set every time. The algo's like, I know what the next video is going to be, and I know who to serve it to, right?
Yep.
As opposed to just like this kind of chaotic, like now I'm in a hot air balloon. It's like, what? Okay, shit. Who do we give that to? You know. So, what other? Give me your kind of, as of today, YouTube formula as you know it. What's a good? What are you looking for? Good thumbnail, good title. Give me kind of Freiburger's YouTube tips.
Okay. Most of my tips, I think, are going to be on the back end part of things. One of the, what are you doing?
I can't wait for this.
Can't wait for this. One of the things I've learned is pick up a mentor, and mine is Derek from Vice Grip. He's done this incredibly successfully. And as a side note, he will tell you that when Motor Trend took Roadkill off YouTube, he sat around and said, well, I can do this. And he did with his iPhone and started making shows. And he has amplified the whole barn find rescue or driveway rescue thing of a car's been sitting 20 years, you make it run and drive, you road trip it home. He does that almost exclusively on that thing where they want the same thing every time, and has become enormous because of it. And he's got lessons that he imparted to me, which have all turned out to be true. One of the big ones that was counterintuitive to me is make the videos as long as you possibly can. And people say to me, but I only want to watch 5 minutes. To which my answer is, hey, they have this thing where if you leave a video, they remember where you left off. So you can watch it 5 minutes at a time for the next 30 days, and that won't hurt my feelings. The thing about long videos is that in my case, I get more views on them than I do on short videos. That's not always true. However, the engagement will drop in the sense of completion rate. My short videos of 20 minutes to half an hour will get completion rates just under 50%, like 46, 47. My 2-hour videos will get 35 to 37. So it's worse. You go, this is terrible. But the thing is, when you count the hours watched and the ads served, you make a way greater percentage of cash on the long video than you do on the short video. Now, this might not be true if you're a small business wanting to get news out about your product and you want people to just grok it real quickly. But as far as entertainment, that's the way. And one of the things that might explain that is 65% of my viewers are watching on full screen TVs. It is a TV show to them.
I think the mentor part is super interesting because everyone that's successful on YouTube says, I have a mentor that's bigger than me, that's helping me do these things.
Yep.
And I think in this industry, mentors are big. Engine builders learn from other engine builders, whatever. But when it comes to the internet, everyone just thinks, oh, I'm just going to Google it. I'm just going to AI it. I'm just going to watch another YouTube video about it. But it seems almost mandatory to have a real life human that can help you grow your YouTube channel. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It has helped a lot for me. I spent a lot of time bench racing it with Brian Loans, who was just here, because he has a completely different formula than me. You know, he does little mini documentaries and the same thing every single time. Tony Angelo is another guy who I talk with about it all the time. Emily Reeves, you know, there's a community. And that's a thing that has changed. When I was at Hot Rod Magazine, you were friendly with the guys from Popular Hot Rodding. But you certainly weren't telling them what you were putting on the cover next month. You know, there was definitely a rivalry there, and there's a community. I have to admit, this is something that Finnegan taught me early on, because he's been on YouTube 10 years, I've been on 1. And he's like, what's the old expression? You know, rising tide floats all boats. And it's true. However, the collaboration thing, where you get together with another YouTuber and do videos together, that's a Shark Tank, I think. There's a lot of non-intuitive stuff that goes on there. You would think that if you get together with another YouTuber, you're both going to have huge videos. That's not really the case from what I have seen myself and from what I've analyzed from other people. Great example. Mike Finnegan and I were on that TV show for 13 years. We're both on YouTube. The show's over. Everyone wants to see us do stuff together. We did. We had a big production. He and I drove one of our project cars across the country. We had a great time. It was like old Roadkill. The audience loved it. But we put the first half on his channel and the second half on my channel. His did spectacularly well for him. Mine did well for me, but it's nowhere near the numbers that he's got. And I think that the big reason for this is you're asking somebody to spend, he posted 2 hours and 20 minutes on his. You're asking him to spend 2 hours and 20 minutes, then remember that the second half is coming. Come to my channel 4 days later, find the video and watch it. It's too much barrier to entry. People don't want to work that hard. And so I have seen that. You take the same story, split it into 2 and put it on 2 channels. The second channel is going to lose. I did another one with Dave Chappelle, who used to be on the Dirt Every Day show on Motor Trend, where we took the other thing that people do, which is we both told the exact same story, but he did it his way, I did it my way. Mine absolutely tanked because he launched first. Everybody had seen that who wanted to see it. I promoted it for him. It's one of his biggest, like, top 5 videos, and mine sucked the bottom of the trash can. And then there's the thing that I came up with Tony Angelo, which is, I think, the right formula. Spend a week together and just agree that you're going to be helping each other, but you're not making the same video. Spend a couple of days making a video over here and another one that's completely unrelated, and that probably wins better than the other methods of collaboration.
Talk to me about timing, cadence, scheduling. Are you weekly on Thursdays at 11, or are you whenever things are coming up? What's kind of your vibe, cadence-wise?
I'm doing videos that are entertainment, so I think that a lot of what I'm talking about here is a little bit different if you're a company trying to promote a product. But for entertainment, you can still become a bit of a destination, which is strange because destination TV doesn't really work anymore. But people know that I drop every Thursday at 3, and so they will show up for that. Thursday at 3, why? I don't know. And I've never been able to do any A/B testing to sort that out. But the reason I did it is all my friends launch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's clogged. And we know that we all share the same audience. I mean, data tells us that in addition to intuition. And so I thought, I'll just get ahead of those guys by a day. I'll be the warm-up game. I'll be the opening act. And so I'm Thursdays at 3 Pacific.
We saw this in email. There was, especially in the big email agency world, some report came out many years ago that said the best time to send emails is Tuesday at 11 a.m. That's when everyone's going to read them. So then every single agency on planet Earth started sending emails Tuesday at 11. Right. It's like, well, now Tuesday at 11 is the worst time to send emails. So then people, I mean, I get emails at 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning now, just doing that same thing, trying to get ahead of the inbox, trying to be the first thing that maybe someone sees. So yeah, sometimes you just gotta, it's like, that is true, but now we all know it. Yeah. So now I gotta move somewhere else.
One of the things that YouTube will tell you in their back-end notes and advice is that it doesn't matter when you drop your video, it's gonna be just as big. Now, data and intuition shows that that's not exactly true, because this is how I believe that it works, and this also comes from Derek at Vice Grip, who believes this, which is that when you first drop a video, the first people to watch it are your subscribers and your biggest fans. And so by percentage of how many of your biggest fans click on that, YouTube goes, this is popular. Let me show it to more of your fans. And if those click through, they say, let me try that with a broader audience. And if that goes through, then all of a sudden you're on the homepage and you're big. And I think that dropping at the same time helps you build that click-through that grows it. Here's a horrible example of how that failed me. Just yesterday, I dropped a video and I had accidentally uploaded last week's video again this week. It was up for about 45 minutes while I was on a plane, and of course everybody's going, this is terrible. But if you looked at my click-through rate, it was really good. It was above average. But then everybody went away because it was the wrong video. I ended up making that video private and quickly uploading another, the correct one. Same title, same thumbnail, same description. It's way below average. I missed that first hit of people who were going to make that big. And so that video is now going to tank.
We've seen that a lot, especially with accounts, any social account that's maybe you're managing for a bigger brand. And sometimes there's a mistake, or sometimes 20 minutes into this, the brand decides they want to change something.
Ooh, that's the worst.
And they're like, oh, just pull it down and repost it. It's like, it will never work. Pulling it down and reposting it will never work the way you think, because that doubling up of time just kind of just kills it.
You're smarter taking the same product that you're trying to promote and thinking of a different spin and posting it the following week or 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
What's the evolution of the YouTube effort for you? You're going to multiple channels, going to bring on other folks. How do you expand and keep going?
First of all, I have to get my act together on being consistent with my videos. When I started, I had a bank of 17 videos. I was 17 weeks ahead. Right now, I'm week to week, and it's really bad. I got to get ahead again, so that's a big thing. And if I can stay ahead, I'll deliver better quality content because I'll have more time to deal with mistakes. I work on cars, and you think, oh, I'll work on it for 3 days and drop a video, and then you break a head, break a bolt off in a cylinder head, and then it's game over. So once I get more consistent with that, I want to start a show that is similar to Engine Masters, which would be when me and a couple friends did A, B, sometimes ABC dyno testing of products, and it was surprisingly popular. Now, the question will be, that's a different enough content than my norm that should I just feed it in there? Should it be another element of my variety? Should I launch it on a different day, or should I start an entirely new channel? I don't know that yet. I haven't gotten close enough to it. My audience has demanded a podcast from me. I think a couple things about that. First of all, my audience loves me. And the example of that is you can have a video that will tank, but if you read the comments, it's like, this is the greatest video that was ever published. And you can't let that get in your head. You have to follow the data, and you have to take the comments and sort of screen them in your mind of what's the balance of this. If everybody is telling you a negative thing that you yourself know to be true, they're right, and so are you. If you pay attention to the haters, you will hate yourself. You got to realize the haters are 5% of your comments. So the problem I was establishing is everyone's saying I want to do a podcast, but everyone is the small group of people who will watch anything that I do. If I actually launch a podcast, I would expect it to have low views. I've also seen that somebody who has a dynamic channel that's growing, if they think they can start a podcast and put it on that channel, they'll bring themselves down. You got to start a separate channel for that.
The theory for me is that David Freiburger has always been a reflection of the attention of the automotive aftermarket.
A segment of it, maybe.
Through your career, okay? Talk about where you're at right now for the marketing experts out there, the new product developers, folks that have got to make money, got to fix things in this industry for their company. Like, do they follow your lead? Have you got this figured out? Like, it looks like this is where everybody's attention is.
You mean on the content that I'm making?
Yeah, and the platforms you're on, the things you're making up.
The platforms, absolutely. And I think a lot of the lessons about the actual like mechanical stuff of doing YouTube and also the lessons of content in general apply. But I really, as much as I think I'm broad-minded on automotive, I'm actually kind of narrow. You know, I don't do late model stuff. And obviously that's a big part of the marketplace. So I don't think all attention's on me as far as that goes. you know what all attention is on is, I keep bringing up Cletus. His audience is huge and his events are enormous, and people of many different market segments want to be involved in all of that. But you know what I think the key is he came up with events that were different and unique, and because of his YouTube notoriety, people wanted to be there and be part of it. And that's the other element of media these days that I think is nearly the most critical. No, let me take that back. It's not the most critical. It is a significant thing, is live events.
Yeah, I think the crossover is always been interesting, but it's the most interesting now because live events, one, give your audience a place to come and see you do things, but two, a place for you to create content for your audience, right? So like Roadkill, Power Tour, those are all great example of it is an event, but it's also a content mining opportunity, and it's a place where people can come and make more content about it. So like, yeah, I think they all build together, and it's really hard to just be singular now. If you're only an event person that doesn't have a YouTube channel, doesn't have a social presence,
correct.
Real tough, right?
It is. Unless you're Streetcar Takeover or World Cup finals, you know, those seem to have taken off without having a content element beforehand, didn't they? I thought you might have a better idea of the history of those than I do.
We just had Justin Keith on, and he talked extensively about the run-up of Streetcar Takeover and all the different platforms.
So they did have content prior to launching that?
No, they were smart. So Streetcar Takeover partnered with 1320 Video.
Oh, okay.
So 1320 was the arm, the content arm of Streetcar Takeover. So, but it is a really good example of like, yeah, Streetcar Takeover wasn't really producing content. So from the outside, it's like, man, that's just a standalone event. But really 1320 was the backside of that operation. So they did it really wisely there.
Kyle of 1320 launched Cletus too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's an interesting thing about that, and it shows you how content like video can succeed for a sponsor. They can give value to a sponsor. Can you name a company outside Red Bull who has been a successful viral content creator? There's probably some, but you look at inside automotive, if you're making X widget and you have a meeting in your office one day and go, I want to go viral, you never do.
I got one.
Yeah.
Jaguar would be a good example.
They did go viral.
They did go viral.
They absolutely
did. Go viral.
Yeah,
they also went to zero sales, but they did go viral. Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about? And, I mean, I won't name names because we have friends at all these companies, but you have seen these companies decide that they're going to be content creators, and it just doesn't work. You've got to have somebody else who understands how to do that. And that partnership between Streetcar Takeover and Kyle's, I think, a great example.
What advice would you give to a brand that's like, but I do want to go viral and I don't really know how to partner with someone, or I'm new to this, I've never really done this before. Where should they be thinking? Do they go to someone like you, Cletus? It's kind of hard to start there. Where should they start?
I think almost universally when you sit around in a corporate meeting and say, I want to make viral videos, it never ever works. If you plan to be viral, you inherently fail. And so you've got to decide who's out there that's big, who meets my brand and will grow my sales. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make these days is they want influencers. And one of the things that has hurt mainstream media is companies have figured out that why would I buy a big sponsorship on cable TV or with me, when I can take that same money and give free parts to 300 influencers, and then I can look and say, 10 of them delivered for me. All right, I'm going to stick with those 10 people and find another 290 for next year. And all they have to do is give out free parts. But the problem with that is that I think you start to create lifestyle brands instead of growing people's technical understanding of your product. You do have to create the image that if I buy this product, I'm going to be cool. My car is going to be better. Guys will like me more. Chicks will like me more. You have to create that environment, but you also have to tell somebody, why are you doing this? How do you install it? What makes it great? And if fill in the blank company makes a technical video about how to install one of their own products, they will get views from people Googling it for instructions, and they should make that video. But if they want to make it cool, they want to come to me and say, please, will you install this on your car and tell people that it's cool? But the risk they have to take is that I'm going to install it and go, this isn't that cool. Because if I'm an influencer just taking a free part and I don't care if I ever get another free part, then what is my onus to actually just praise the thing if it's not that good?
Yeah, I love the discussion about kind of the funnel, right? You got to have people be aware of it, but then they do want to see how it gets installed, and they do want to see the dyno numbers, and they do want to see all that stuff. Those videos may not get 1 million views, they may get 5,000, but those might be 5,000 people who are actually going to buy this thing, right? So it's just driving them down that all the way through.
But if they do that video themselves, you inherently don't trust it. You can use it for information when you already own the thing and you want to find out how to use it, but you're not going to watch it and go, that's super cool, so I need to have it. Yeah. You need an actual content person for that. And the other problem, I made the comment that you are on the risk of creating a lifestyle brand. There's so many influencers that have no knowledge, no credibility. There's no barrier to entry to joining YouTube or social media. And so there's all sorts of people who really have no idea what's going on, or they have a shtick that has sent them into orbit and they have millions of viewers. Okay, but people are following them for the shtick, not for the technical information or the, wow, I really need this.
I think this is becoming worse and worse the further along we get. It used to be if you were a car influencer, you loved cars and you make some content. Now we're seeing a shift in the market where influencers are saying, oh, that looks like a profitable niche. And I can go into that niche and do my little thing and extract money from that industry. And the more of that we see, the sadder I get every time I see it. But it does seem to be happening more and more here because people are like, oh, cars, big car brand deals, commercials, right? They see that, as opposed to what it used to be where if you were making car content, it's because you owned the car and it was broken.
Right.
So like that was kind of your way in, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's definitely going that direction. And it is unfortunate. When I was at the magazines, we walked around, even though I told you it wasn't about me, we still thought we were kings because we had access to everything. I would call you and go, Doc, send me a crate motor. And you'll say, what's the address, baby? It's on its way, right? But when I got that motor, I was able to talk to your engineers. I remember when we talked about doing the dyno test of the actual, what do you call it? The reliability test where they would cycle the thing between peak horsepower and peak torque for 24 hours. And I wanted to build an engine all with Chinese parts and do that. And this was right after I left Hot Rod. But yeah, you and I literally talked about that. And that's the type of thing that only a media powerhouse can pull off. We did another one with Mike Copeland where we put every single GM crate motor into one car and drag tested every single one of them. I want media like that to come back. And your average guy or girl in their driveway going, I just unboxed my carburetor, isn't delivering that.
Who's doing it right? And it's fine if you mention companies that are working with you, but do you see brands that have figured this out and they aren't doing the unboxing fake stuff, but they're really working on the technical side?
I think good ones are doing both because you probably do need the unboxing fake stuff. I think Holley's an example of that. They have a lot of that going on, but they're an old enough company with enough contacts that they are still dealing with credible people, which I think helps them too. So as much as I'm bad-mouthing the whole influencer thing, there's an element of it that's absolutely necessary.
Well, you do need the top of the funnel, and if that's where it's going to come in from, Yeah. But Holley's also a good example, I think, of old brand, got into the event space, LS Fest, became kind of content creation through the event in a weird backwards way. But
masterclass, honestly, yeah. Total masterclass. Bill Tishner, I remember when he told me, hey, we're going to shift the company here and we're going to be all about LS swaps. I was like, you're joking. Right? And this was way early, but he was absolutely right. And the LS Fest thing, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say it saved Holley, but boy, did it make everyone aware of it. And that's a perfect example. If you take that event, look at all the content creators that come there and spread the word about that to everywhere. So yeah, I think that's a prime example.
you're a hands-on guy. That's your brand. You know, are there products that stand out for you, maybe in the past that were breakthroughs for you, or things that are going on right now that you see that are like, holy cow, that thing's amazing? What product? Talk product for a little bit.
The quality of the average aftermarket performance part has increased since the 70s, in my opinion. The quality of aftermarket replacement parts is in the tank. No one knows how to make a motor mount or a set of ignition points anymore. Water pumps leak straight out of the factory. So that's my biggest frustration, really. But look at, you know, a traction bar from 1975 versus some of the stuff that you can now get from Detroit Speed or Hotchkiss or any of that. You're like, the quality of this is way better and it performs better. There are super frustrating things that just plain don't work. I think we are prone, and by we, I mean sort of me and my cronies, we're prone to just go, oh, it's a China part, doesn't work. You can make quality stuff in China. The problem isn't China. The problem is the quality control that comes back out of it. I see castings and stuff that leak, wheels that aren't round, and I think QC is the key to all of that. One thing that's been interesting to me over the past 25 or 30 years is the advancements in aftermarket EFI. There was a time when I said I have never ridden an aftermarket EFI car that performed seamlessly. You know, that was 25 or 30 years ago, and people have that dialed now. So I think that's really good.
What do you think the next, it's an impossible question to answer, but what's the next LS? What's the next like thing that is germinating right now that's gonna be the next hotness? You don't have to be right here, but what are you feeling like could be next?
I won't be right here. It won't be as big, but I think the full throttle that we're seeing right now is in late model Hemis, and Dodge bringing them back is only gonna let that continue to go. There was a time when I said, you know what? Mopar muscle car guys are not going to put this ugly monstrosity of an engine in their old cars. And at the time, I was right. What I didn't count on is that they were all putting them in Dakotas and D150s and stuff. And that's a crazy big segment for that. And then they got big enough and had enough parts available for them that it trickled down. And now people are putting them in muscle cars. Not the resto guys, obviously, but I think it's a common swap. And now you're even seeing them, it's a mild micro niche of people who put them in GM A&G bodies. Why would you do that? I encourage it. This is a thing, I'm going to derail for this fast. When I was at Hot Rod Magazine, people would always, they never wanted to see a Ford engine in a Chevy or a Chevy engine in a Mopar. They would get irate. Well, hot rodding started with going to the junkyard and finding the engine that made the most power and that ran good and putting it in whatever car that you had. That's what it was in the 50s, and that's what it is now. I think LS the world, right? Well, now we're edging up on Hemi the world.
There are some cool swaps 50 feet from where we're recording this right now. It's kind of been the talk of the office today of just like, I don't know, the Viper with the Hurricane actually sounds pretty good, you know? I don't know, the Grand National with the Hurricane, I can see it.
The Hurricane will never mainstream. Here's the interesting thing that I've seen, and I will talk about just the hot rodding niche, not the BMWs and Porsches and things. In the hot rodding niche, there has always been some new cool 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder that we say, this is going to be the engine of the future. Ecotech, right? Right? And going down the list, it was actually the Chrysler 2.2 in the 80s. None of them have had staying power. And my prediction is the Hurricane's the same thing. And Dodge kind of is self-fulfilling that. They just announced today, every Durango will come base with a Hemi V8 in it.
Long live the V8.
Yeah, there we go. Hot rods forever.
I like it.
Anything else we need to ask David Freiburger?
I have one question, kind of unrelated to where we've been in this conversation, but you've seen every little business niche in this industry. You've been in every old man building lifters, you know, one at a time.
Yep.
For a shop at home, like, or someone who doesn't even know how small and niche down a business can get, what kind of like products are you like, man, I wish people knew that there was just a guy who made $10 million selling this tiny little thing. Or like, man, I wish people would make more of this little widget here. Like, is there like a pool of products where you're like, people, it would just blow your mind to even know these things exist out there?
I wish I had a good answer for you on that. I was much better at that when I was a magazine editor because I really kept my finger on that pulse, and that has slipped. I will say this, though. The modern environment of social media has really allowed mom and pop shops who make some neat little widget to become big. And that started at forums, and it's going on today through Facebook groups. You know, there's a lot of people who, you can probably buy more 455 Buick performance parts now than you could 20 years ago. None of them are moving in volume and never will, but the thing is available.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny when a car comes out, like I was early into the Colorado ZR2's second gen, and like instantaneously, there are little shops that are just like zr2zone.com or whatever, and they're selling little specific widgets that back in the day, I'd have to go to a trade show and that guy couldn't afford a booth and I would never hear about it and he would just be gone, right? Yeah. But now there's like for every car, there's 50 little tiny people that are just selling these little tiny little things that everyone who has that one car needs. Yeah. They couldn't scale that in the past. They couldn't go to a hot rod magazine and be like, let me take out a full page ad. There just wasn't volume for that, right?
But now you can. As an enthusiast, the problem for me with modifying a late model vehicle like that ZR2 is, what's the longevity of it? I mean, with Dodge Challengers, obviously the platform's so long that everybody's selling parts. But let's say it's the last generation of ZR2. How many years before nothing is available for that and your aftermarket part that's on it breaks and you're out of luck? And I think that's specifically with electronics. All of a sudden you've got no support on something. So that's a derail, but that is my concern with modifying late model vehicles. But you're right about how that little mini industry works.
Give us, leave us with this. Tell us, how do we keep score with you for the next 12 months? Like, how do we know you're meeting your goals? And you've got so many fans that are going to watch this. What do you want to have accomplished in the next 12 months?
I need to pull my act together on YouTube to be consistent. Right now, I am scattered, and so I'll get a video with 150,000 views, and then next week I'll have one with 700,000. I need to become more consistent, so that would be a goal of mine. But one of the things I did want to mention about all this new media is whether it is Facebook, where I'm making money, or TikTok, where many are making money but not me, or YouTube, you're anchoring your career on a company that won't return your phone call. And that's a big problem. YouTube overnight could just say, you know what, we're cutting payouts by 50%, and there's nothing you can do about it. And furthermore, you can have two videos on YouTube that are the same length, have the same number of views, dropped in the similar day, and they pay radically differently, and you don't know why, and you can't affect it. And so that is, I think, a trap of modern media, is that we're all making all this money off of it and it could end tomorrow. We just don't know.
To be fair, I've been at several magazines where I walked in and they said, this magazine is no longer either, right? So I guess it was never safe to be in the content creation.
That is absolutely true, but at least I could walk into somebody's office. And the other thing is, I work for a lot of magazines that got killed, right? Like roughly 60 of them. You saw it coming. You knew. When Roadkill was getting canceled, I saw that coming. At YouTube, you're not involved in day-to-day operations. You can't see it coming. Here's a big problem that I have on Instagram right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. In the past week, I've picked up something like 40,000 followers, and every one of them is a bot. I am getting bots coming in at a rate of hundreds per hour, and there's nothing I can do about it. They're not deleting them. They're starting to infiltrate my comments, and your trouble is you can't talk to anybody at Instagram. Their AI might see all those coming in and go, this guy's buying followers, shut him down, or this is fake, shut him down. If I go through and delete them all, which you can't delete that many, they could say, why is this guy deleting all his followers, and shut me down. And I don't know if that's true, and I can't talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, if you've ever had a problem with Meta, you can relate. because it is the most frustrating. First of all, there's like 50 different, like, oh no, you need to log into ads manager, not the business manager, but now you're over here, but that's not, it's connected to your Instagram. And like, you do realize like there's no one home here. There's no one that can help me at all, which is, yeah, if that's your whole business.
It'll have a huge impact on my business if it wipes out my Instagram account. You know, I had several 100,000 active users plus a whole bunch that weren't, as everybody does. But the bots will shut me down. And all I can do is start another account and hope that I can grow it back.
I'm going to end it on this note. Go change your passwords, everybody.
Yeah.
Do not get hacked. If you take one thing from this, I want you to change one social media password and turn on two-factor.
David, thank you so much for joining us on Automotive Advantage. We appreciate you so much and everything you do, and we're going to be watching and cheering you on, pal.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it.
That's the pod.
Thanks, pal.